Welcome to Where Sleeping Dogs Lie. My name is Julia Schlosser, and thanks for having me today. In the 2016 anthology Mourning Animals, Rituals and Practices Surrounding Animal Death, animal activist and professor of anthrozoology Margot DeMello states that people in industrialized and post-industrialized countries live more intimately with companion animals, pets, than ever before in history, a marked change from even 50 years ago. She substantiates this assertion by looking at the animal death care industry and the growth in the number of pet cemeteries in the United States from the 1890s to today, when the number of pet cemeteries has grown from just one to more than 600. Between 1840 and 1930, all of the elements of a modern pet industry gradually developed in the United States. This included the breeding of pet animals for sale, manufacture of commercial pet food, pet supplies like dog collars, toys, and bird cages, medication and flea remediation, founding of purebred associations like the American Kennel Club, dog shows, and the birth of small animal veterinary practices. During this time, however, most animal bodies, even pets, were discarded in the trash, thrown into rivers, or disposed of by commercial rendering. Mirroring the rise in the pet industry and the development of pet keeping itself is an attendant growth in the number of pet funerals in the United States. Rare in 1800, by the 1830s, pet funerals and burials were much more common, with traditions mimicking those at a human funeral. Through the 1860s and 70s, it was not uncommon for beloved family favorites or pets to be buried with homemade or purchased tombstones on the estates of East Coast upper and middle class families, with some private pet cemetery areas evolving to complex multi-generational pet graveyards. However, general societal acceptance of pet cemeteries did not come easily and was tangled up with controversial Victorian-era changes in attitudes toward animal souls. Biblically speaking, could animals, specifically pet animals, have a soul? And could they join their humans in an afterlife? During the Victorian era, Orthodox Christian theology prohibited the burial of animals on soil consecrated for the burial of humans, considering this ground to be terra sancta. Even after the construction of large, modern, non-denominational cemeteries, the stigma that animal bodies defiled the human dead persisted. Newspaper articles published during the 1880s and 90s spoke of surreptitious pet burials, sometimes on human cemetery grounds, and singular instances of pets receiving embalming treatment from morticians trained to work on human corpses. Oftentimes, against the loud protestations of community members who were horrified by the potential defilement of the human occupants. The particularly scandalous and highly publicized 1880 burial of Mary Bell's Skye Terrier Cozy in New York's Human Woodlawn Cemetery, despite Bell's having fully disclosed her intent to the cemetery, resulted in sufficient press and editorial discussion that by 1896, the stage was set for the founding of the first commercial pet cemetery in the United States. In 1881, Hyde Park, a gatekeeper in London, had already established what was probably the first modern Western urban pet cemetery. According to historians, the Hyde Park Pet Cemetery was founded not as a commercial enterprise, but as a place where grieving London pet owners could lay their beloved dogs to rest, near the park spaces where they had played in life. In 1896, the first pet cemetery in the United States was founded in Hartsdale, New York. While Hyde Park Pet Cemetery in London began accidentally when a family whose dog had played at Hyde Park asked the gatekeeper to bury their dog in his garden, Hartsdale Pet Cemetery in New York was the brainchild of Emily Berthet and veterinarian Samuel Johnson, who was the front man of the operation driven by Berthet. Although Berthet remained the mystery woman behind the scenes, it was her plan to build a quote, American animal necropolis that would set the standard for the rest of the world, end quote, that created Hartsdale Pet Cemetery, one of the oldest and largest still operating pet cemeteries in the world. Hartsdale was founded followed by the founding of other commercial pet cemeteries, such as 1908's Francisville in Philadelphia, which started a trend for animal welfare organizations to establish pet cemeteries on the same land where they had their animal shelters. Pet keeping in the United States brought companion animals into the homes and hearts of increasing numbers of Americans as the surrounding industries needed to produce, feed, board, care for, train, and entertain pets all prospered during the last decades of the 19th century. It makes sense that attendant death care facilities would also develop. However, the percentage of animals that are buried in pet cemeteries is not large enough to practically facilitate the mass disposal of the growing number of pet bodies. The development of spaces where pet owners could publicly mourn and celebrate the lives of their pet animals speaks of deeper empathetic and spiritual connections. From the 1850s on, the importance of both the Victorian bourgeois family and its inclusion of pet animals as honorary family members increased. Victorian expectations grew that the fidelity and love of pet animals would last beyond the grave, as would the love of their other human family members, and that human and non-human would be reunited in the afterlife as part of a moral community. In fact, the invention of the urban pet cemetery can be seen as one of the more emblematic and significant places for animals invented by the Victorians. From the 1860s to the 1900s, many in Victorian society, especially bourgeois women, were dissatisfied with the constraints of both mainstream Christianity and rationalist science and intensely explored questions surrounding death and immortality. These women became interested in reshaping their vision of heaven as a domesticated space where they could spend eternity with their earthly families and animal companions, and at the same time advocated against vivisection and for animal protection advocacy movements to improve the lives of animals in this realm. Beliefs in heaven as a quasi-domesticated social space with room for family and pets alike also became popular in the United States. With her two massively successful didactic novels, The Gates Ajar, 1869, and Beyond the Gates, best-selling American author Elizabeth Stuart Phelps encouraged her readers to, quote, set aside the rigors of Christian doctrine, end quote, for a more flexible view of heaven. She urged that on questions like the future life of animals, which doctrine simply cannot resolve, we should hold out hope that we would be joined in a heaven of our understanding by the companion animals we treasured in this life. In 1904, Phelps published the novel Trixie, which advocated against vivisection not only on the grounds for animal cruelty, but also on the grounds that it corrupted young doctors. By the 1920s, the U.S. was well on its way to creating a network of over 600 pet cemeteries, and today there are more pet cemeteries in the United States than in the rest of the world combined. A market thus emerged for commercial pet cemeteries, and one of the first and largest in California, the still existing and thriving Los Angeles Pet Memorial Park in Calabasas, California, was opened by Hollywood veterinarian Dr. Eugene C. Jones in 1828. The Jones family owned and operated pet empire spanned from the early 1920s to the early 1970s, from Hollywood, California, to Big Bear, California, to the San Fernando Valley, and Jones and his legacy received extensive coverage in the pages of the Los Angeles Times newspaper during his lifetime and beyond. His empire consisted of his innovative pet hospital at 9080 Santa Monica Boulevard, built in 1926, his Big Bear Valley Summer Resort, where the dogs and cats could vacation while their wealthy owners escaped the heat of the Los Angeles summer, the conveniently located for the Hollywood crowd pet mortuary showroom drop-off location at 2500 North Hollywood, and finally the Los Angeles Pet Memorial Park. The Los Angeles Pet Memorial Park has a unique connection with the Hollywood community. Paul Koudounaris writes that in the land of the stars in the 1920s and 30s, Readers consuming news items related to the movie industry were very attracted to the vulnerability they shared with Hollywood celebrities upon the passing of their animal companions, providing a promotion and marketing opportunity for the bereft celebrities, along with the very real need to share their genuine emotion at the loss of beloved companion animals. However, in the 1920s, home pet burials and official pet cemeteries were prohibited by Los Angeles city ordinances. With the star's need for privacy and the inadvertent destruction of the graves of several important early animal film stars, including Charlie Chaplin's canine co-star Mutt, the market was ripe for the 1928 opening of Los Angeles's first pet cemetery, which soon became known as the Valhalla of Dogs and Cats of the Screen and America's Amazing Pet Cemetery for Pets of Stars. The Los Angeles Pet Memorial Park is the largest and oldest modern pet cemetery in California, located at 5068 Old Scandia Lane, Calabasas, California. According to the LAPMP website, it was founded by celebrity veterinarian Dr. Eugene Jones on September 4th, 1928, and became the final resting place for such animal stars as Tawny, one of the MGM lions, and Jigs, cheetah from Tarzan, with over 40,000 animals interred here. In 1924, Dr. Eugene C. Jones moved to Los Angeles after graduating with his degree in veterinary medicine from Washington State College, and immediately began to establish himself as veterinarian to the stars. A 2003 Los Angeles Times article refers to Jones as the veterinarian who professionalized animal care in Los Angeles. Jones built and opened the E.C. Jones Veterinary Hospital at 9080 Santa Monica Boulevard in West Hollywood in 1926. In 1928, he hired the architectural team of Walter Werdeman and Welton Beckett from the University of Washington to remodel and enlarge his original building. The duo would become iconic shapers of the Los Angeles urban landscape. They turned Jones Pet Hospital into a renowned but no longer extant, streamlined, modern building. From the beginning, Dr. Jones seemed to have had an almost prescient ability to predict what his well-to-do and Hollywood clientele would appreciate. His Santa Monica building, one of the first small animal veterinary practices in Los Angeles, was replete with innovations that we now take for granted. Dr. Jones Pet Hospital, with its x-ray facilities, private waiting rooms for VIPs, and culinary facilities to accommodate nutritional or dietary needs for the animals, was more up-to-date and better equipped than some area human hospitals at the time. Jones also segregated dogs and cats into their own surgical bays. In 1928, Jones and his real estate brother, Rollins Jones, came up with the idea to build a pet cemetery far enough outside the city limits to avoid the ordinances prohibiting pet cemeteries and pet burial on private property, close enough to his Hollywood clientele, and scenic enough to appeal to their aesthetic sensibilities. Ostensibly, Jones was the first to bury his dog on the 10-acre plot of land purchased from disgraced Hollywood moneyman and convicted embezzler Gilbert H. Besmeyer. While Jones ran the pet hospital, his mother, Mattie, and his brother ran the Hollywood mortuary location and drove the hearse to pick up pet bodies as needed, making this a truly family-run business. Jones continued his illustrious career. In April of 1948, then California Governor Earl Warren appointed him to the Board of Examiners in Veterinary Medicine for a term ending in 1952. Today, LAPMP has cremated or interred over 42,000 animals and remains the largest and oldest pet cemetery in Los Angeles County. In the 1980s, the park transitioned to a nonprofit corporation, SOFI, Saving Our Pets History in Eternity. Its members worked with California Senator Alan Robbins to pass a bill through the California legislature. In 1986, giving pet cemeteries protection similar to that applied to human ones. On September 12, 1986, the park was the first in California registered to be dedicated in perpetuity under the State Health and Safety Code Amendment secured by SOFI. The original vision that Dr. Eugene C. Jones had to create a memorial space where members of both the Hollywood and the larger animal-loving Los Angeles community could come together to mourn and celebrate their relationships with their companion animals has been recognized and secured safely into the future. And here's a selected bibliography. And I'll end. Thank you. And you can check out my story map if you'd like more information.